when Michelle, I helped plant a church in South Bend, Indiana, that by God's grace became a very large church. It was like we were a big fish in a small pond. So we were reaching a lot of people that were far from Jesus. And there's hundreds of baptisms every year after year. We had thousands of people coming on the weekend, hundreds of small groups, all the stuff, hundreds of volunteers. And all of that was very meaningful. And God was working in the midst of it. But then I went to a trip to India. It was actually my first trip. And I was there with these 7 leaders, and they were actually network leaders, but they had small churches. So they might have like 3 or 4 very small churches in their networks. We would even probably call them micro churches. They were coming together to form a network. So I had to actually leave America to really understand the power of a network. And they met together. We spent a lot of time in prayer, and there was a fervency in prayer, interaction with Jesus that was so powerful. It was very convicting. And then they started planning, and I realized they were asking the question, what would it take not to reach a city, but to reach an entire state in India, which is like an entire nation, basically, millions. And it took me a while to wrap my mind around it, because I'm like, these guys are crazy. They're serious. They're literally asking the question, what would it take to reach a whole state? So their outcome wasn't like how we're going to get our little network with more churches or bigger churches, or even my church, like my church growing. It was this vision of actually filling a whole state with the gospel. And it ruined me. I'm like, I'm not even thinking about my city this way. I'm still thinking about how many people we have coming on the weekend, how many people we're baptizing. And I realized I was just thinking about the church as a congregation. It wasn't like bad motives. I'm like, man, we're just trying to reach people that are far from God. It's working and it's amazing and we can barely keep up with it, all the above. But I suddenly realized too, like, we could be winning, but our whole city might actually be losing. When I started doing the data, it was like, we actually are losing. Even though our church is growing, lostness is actually increasing. I have the illusion like we're winning because our church is growing. And in one level, we are winning. But if I actually love my city, then I have to look and go, I need to work with every like-minded leader who wants to multiply disciples, leaders, and churches. So ever since then, that has been a part of my life and my call. Like I am radically committed to the church in a city.